Thank you. Good evening. My name is Rosie Gilmour and I'm from Dunblane in central Scotland. I'm 16 years old and I was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was just 9. The last 7 years of my life have been a rollercoaster. When I was 9, I had strange sensations where I would reach out to hold on to something to steady myself, rarely falling over. My epilepsy started with clusters of seizures, of small seizures, and at 9 I was confused and kept them a secret, thinking and hoping they would go away. It wasn't until my brother Daniel brought it to my parents' attention, describing me as acting drunk, when it was brought to the surface. The family were all out one day when my parents first witnessed me having a seizure, and after having a few, went up to Stirling Infirmary. However, they weren't concerned and thought it was maybe just panic attacks. After a weekend of these panic attacks, I was sent back to Stirling Infirmary from my GP. After a number of tests, including an MRI and an EEG scan, it was concluded that I had focal epilepsy. At the age of 9, I had never heard of epilepsy, which wasn't a surprise to the doctors. I remember receiving lots of booklets and leaflets explaining in 5 pages what epilepsy was and how it would affect me. At the time, I never imagined that 7 years later I would still have the condition. I'd always been told that you went to hospital to get cured. Months later, I was still seizure-free on a standard anti-epileptic drug, and life didn't appear to be any different than it had been before I was diagnosed. It wasn't until 5 months later when the seizures started again. We then had 2 years of going back and forth to Stirling Royal Infirmary, trying different medicines and different strengths before my parents asked the doctors if we could be transferred to York Hill Hospital. When I was younger, the seizures were not causing too much disruption. However, as I got older, around 14, it was so bad that I was having seizures every half hour. They had a great impact in a negative way on my life. Going to school was hard and some days an impossibility. I needed someone with me all the time and I was no longer an independent teenager. The medicine I was on made me drowsy and dizzy, and some days walking across the road and walking downstairs was something I just wasn't comfortable doing alone. At first, my family and friends were both scared and confused, just as I was, but over time, experience made them stronger, and they are both supportive and helpful now. There are times where I felt so down and depressed, but they've always been the first people I would turn to. My best friends and family know exactly what to say, and I know they all have faith in me to get through this. I guess they're my inspiration and what keeps me going on. Another thing that keeps me going is knowing that I've been there before and I've got better before. Of course, I have moments when I'm unsure, but the people that do matter knock some sense into me and in no time, and I respect them so much for what they do. It is hard for me, but I know it must be hurtful for them to see me down. My friend once said to me, if I could take this disease from you, I would. It was a lovely thing to say, probably the nicest thing anyone could say to me, but sometimes I don't think people realise how hard it is, really, unless they have epilepsy themselves. No matter how hard it is, I have always known how lucky I am too. There are much worse cases of epilepsy and I am living a relatively normal life. I go to school every day and I just sat my hires under the same conditions as everyone else. I still go out with my friends, have a relationship, have a job working in a coffee shop in Stirling, and one of my passions and greatest achievements is being spotted as a model by Miss Scotland. This changed my life, as it gave me the wake-up call I needed, that epilepsy couldn't hold me back and I could shine and be independent. As well as my parents and friends being there for me, my teachers, employer and my agent have been great with my epilepsy. When I first got signed with Colours Agency in Glasgow, the first thing I did was tell my agent that I had epilepsy. She said, "So I have a lisp, it's not a problem." Getting into modelling made me realise that in the future I want to go to university to study fashion marketing, and if I get the required passes, epilepsy will not hold me back. When Alana asked if I would be an ambassador for Epilepsy Scotland, I was thrilled. I would love the chance to represent the younger people in Scotland with epilepsy. I know how hard it is for myself, and although we all have different types of epilepsy and different experiences, but I would, if I could encourage young people to challenge and break the stigma of epilepsy, but also to stay strong, that would be fantastic. My advice for other young people with epilepsy would be to never ever let epilepsy hold you back. If you have the support you need, Epilepsy Scotland has a great website and a great support line to help. That's what they're there for. Follow your dream and don't regret a thing, because life's too short to let epilepsy get you down, and stop living your life. Thank you for listening.